Welcome to a new episode of Brainstorming, an enlightened episode. As you can see, I'm surrounded by light today. We're recording on a sunny weekend, so we're not at work today. And Hiki is not at work too. He's at home. I can see his beautiful home in the background.
Never like yours. I'm not shining the way that you are. One day, my dream.
uh, yeah, I had better backgrounds here, like that I could record with less noise and less light, but it wouldn't be as nice here. At least the weather is good, and my cat is in the background somewhere in the balcony. But yeah, we're back for another episode, for another discussion. A lot of stuff happening during the week. I was talking before we started recording with Henrique, sharing some of the experiences we've been having at our company using AI, especially for coding. And we're going to talk a lot about this today. It has everything to do with our main subject. It has everything to do with our academic paper. But all I can say is stuff is changing and it's changing fast, my friend. How are you this week?
I'm doing great. I'm better now that not only I'm talking to you, but I've seen what you do. It's proprietary ad. Well, it's secret ad because it's proprietary and you don't want to lose that. But
Yes.
yes, you're trying to sell me that AI is gonna solve the world, and you're almost making me believe it. No, but I'm joking. I do think it'll help a lot. I just sometimes I don't think it'll do what people say it will, but it's they are smart. They as in those little guys, or as my wife says, the minions. Um, you know, AI is just a bunch of minions inside doing their work, just millions and millions of minions. That's why it's so fast.
Before we even start to discuss, man, I just looked at the screen. If we wanted, we could recreate the Coldplay scene from here.
Oh my god.
That we can duck from the camera. Yeah.
By the way,
And
did you see what the Philadelphia Phillies did? The
that was amazing. And probably the poster thing was staged because the camera found the guy too quickly. But it was
true.
such a great idea. It was such a great, and it was funny because when you send it in our chat group, and you said, somewhere I saw like, wait for it, because I'm looking at the Phillies mascot. It's good. It's funny, but then what happens later is the funniest part. The poster is the funniest part.
Yep.
This is my wife.
Just so you know.
But
Uh,
the cool thing, and not trying, I know it has nothing to do with AI, but the cool thing about the CEO and his mistress and the Coldplay concert, finally we had something on the internet that had nothing to do with politics. It had nothing to do with sports fans. It was like everybody embraced the joke. Everybody embraced the guy's
yeah,
disgrace.
we
It
needed
was
that.
awesome. We needed that. We needed to heal us as a society.
Exactly. And we needed a fall guy that was not politically related, right? Exactly.
Exactly.
Everyone united against him.
You had everyone from the right, everyone from the left. Like, it was just perfect. It was a perfect.
Yeah.
So take your mistresses to concerts. Take your like, just let us heal. Let us unite. Let us all have a good laugh about it. It was good. It was good. And
The
probably the guy
best
will find another job in another couple of months. But
he'll found another company. He'll be fine.
yes.
Now to be an AI company that lets you watch Coldplay on your home screen, so you don't need to take the mistress to the concert. Um,
Y- and just remember, kids, when you buy a ticket for a sport event or for a concert, you're giving your image right. So don't even try to make it believe, oh, they did it without my consent. No, you were there.
you
You
know,
knew you could be on the
you
jumbotron. So
you saw that he complained, right?
yeah,
He complained about Coldplay's indiscretion.
yeah. Uh, Again, it was fun. It was a fun 24 hours where everyone
Yeah.
united against one guy. So it was perfect.
Just one last comment about it. My wife was saying the worst thing of all is if they just had acted normally, probably no
Yes.
one would have noticed.
Larissa is 100% correct. She is
All he
100%
needed to
correct.
do was pretend that it was normal, and no one would have found out.
Yep.
Anyway.
You know, you know it will be in like some company training now how to react if you get caught in the act.
Avoid going out in public with someone that is not your wife. And if you do, act normally.
Yeah. Who is going to analyze the case if the head of HR was involved in it? That's my big question. Yeah, okay. We had our fun with them. I'm sorry about that, guys, but we again, it was something that everyone united against, so it was perfect. But
Exactly.
going back to AI, today we're going to talk a little bit about when we talk about productivity and again, the cool thing about the conversation I had with Enrique before we started recording is that everyone who's listening, everyone who's watching, has seen productivity gains in their personal use of ChatGPT, of Claude, of Gemini. But the big challenge, and that's where companies want to learn about, and that's why probably if you're watching us, that's what you want us to discuss is how do I translate that into a business setting? Because that is the hardest part. That really is the hardest part. How do I go from all the personal gains that I'm getting? How do I transform that into business ROI? And that's what we want to discuss a little bit today. How do we augment the AI work into business results instead of just having silos inside our companies that everyone is using it in the same way or everyone is using it in their own way, and that's where the biggest challenges come from for not only for companies, like not only for executives, but even for middle management. Like if they want to implement something in their teams, how do they get people to standardize their use of AI?
Yeah, exactly. And we always talk about ROI, right? In the end of the day, that's what it is. AI is amazing, but it doesn't, if you just do cool stuff, if you just show the fun things, everyone enjoys it, but it doesn't get you a job, it doesn't keep your job, and it doesn't replace your job either. It just means you're not being productive. If you did cool things with design software that is not augmented or generated at all, but it didn't do productive things, it wouldn't keep your job either. It's not an AI specific feature, but yeah. And I think now today we get to where we want to go with our mine and yours project here, right? Which is how to bridge that gap, how to go to get AI to actually create profit and create value for everyone, for the employee, for the company, for everyone, because that's what we believe in, right? It's not an or, it's an and. So yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And uh, like trying to bring a real example and bringing some of what I talk already with Enrique is if we talked about coding, and I think I already mentioned it in previous episodes, that's one of the uses that AI has most evolved in the past 3 or 4 months. I gave the example, I think, in the first episode of the South by Southwest panel that I saw, and how things have changed in 4 months. And I can tell you guys, of all the tests that we've been doing in our company and we're using Cursor. You can use whatever IDE, AI augmented IDE you want to use. We think even with the new pricing, and it's kind of not completely clear what they're doing, but even with the new pricing structure that they have, Cursor is the best option because of the models that you can use. And just for the tech guys, that the test we've been doing is there's so many differences in the output depending on the model you use. So when you go to the auto in whoever used Cursor, if you haven't used Cursor yet, it starts the first setting. It gives you like an auto as automatic for you, telling you that the cursor will select the model based on your price plan, based on what they think is the best option. It is not it is fun to play, but it's definitely not the best option if you're building something that you want to sell. Let me put it that way. You need to have, you need to find a model that is best for what you want to do. And we've been doing a lot of tests with different models, and there are a lot of different outputs. So I just put it out there. But getting straight to the point, when you use something like Cursor, when you start to develop your code using an IDE fueled by AI, you will find huge productivity gains. I'm not saying you, and that's what we want to talk about here, is that you need to have a company strategy behind it. You need to have policies. You need to have security policies. You need to have usage policies. You need to have structures of how you want to structure your prompt, how you want to structure your context. You need everything standardized to ensure that if you have a team of 20 developers, even if they become a team of 30 or if they become a team of 10, the output will be the same. But we're not going to sugarcoat it here. You are going to see huge productivity gains. The tests we've been doing, all the simulations we've been doing, you will see these gains. What you do with this free time is the big question and is the big discussion. And that's why I have Henrique here, because he is the strategy king. And I think that's where lays the biggest challenge for companies is, first, how to structure all the use of the tool to really bring the best results. And second is, you will have free time in your hands. Do you just cut people and just say, hey, we're going to do that? We both don't believe that's the best answer, because you're going to have challenges and obstacles that you're not seeing yet. But what do you do? Like, you see the first results of the first test, you say, oh my God, what I used to do in a week, I can do in an hour. Okay, what do you do with that free time?
Exactly. And I think, yeah, we have so many, I mean, there are so many points to touch on that, but I think it starts with the mentality of both employees and companies, because it's a society thing, that if you use AI and you do something in an hour, it's almost like you're lazy, because now you have all the free time after that. Or you have an idea, you pass an idea that you didn't want to do it in more time, you didn't want to devote more time, you didn't want to put in more effort, you want to take the easy way out, things like that. And to do a quality job with AI, there's a lot more that goes in it. You do need to iterate a lot. Maybe you can do it in an hour, but if you can do it in an hour, that means you either put in a lot of effort in that hour, or you had previous knowledge of how to use AI, how to create a prompt in a way that would give you that output in that short amount of time. But either way, you need a lot of time training AI and using AI to get to that level. You're not gonna give it to anyone and first time they go at it for an hour. So I think, and I don't know where that kind of that mentality change starts, but in general, there would need to be a change in the mentality of using AI means I want to do better, or I want to do faster and more productive, rather than I want to take the easy way out and I don't want to spend a week coding, you know. Well, that is true also, but you're not doing it because you're lazy. You're doing it because you found a way that can be better. And yeah, so I think that's where it starts, or maybe that's where it ends. I don't know. It's hard to know this.
No, when you were talking, the one thing that came to my mind, and because I don't want, because at the end with the academic paper it talks about software development, because that's where we're seeing huge gains. But I don't want to focus only on that. I want to focus on your phrase where you say doing it in like getting a test done in an hour, and that relates to any task that you can do with AI nowadays. It relates to content generation. It relates to sales, data analysis. It relates to any task. Where is the big danger for me here is for you to just accept the output that
Oh
was
yeah,
given to you in an hour, when you could have generated a much better output if you just invested a couple more hours trying to
yes,
tweak your prompt, trying to tweak the data. I've seen this, like the test that I've been working in tech for over 20 years, but I am not a programmer. So all the tests we're doing in the company, I am the guy who is doing the test as a guy who doesn't have the programming experience. And what I've seen is it's easier for me to be just marveled by the results because, oh my God, I'm coding now. I'm the man. Screw everyone. I can do this by myself. The one thing I'm seeing is when I take a step back, and I've done this like this week, when I when I close my notebook at night and I open it up in the morning, looking at it with fresh eyes, I'm like, oh shit, I can do
hmm
this better. Let me try a different prompt here. Let me try a better analysis. So it's not being satisfied or not being like just accepting what the AI is giving you. Because again, we made the question, we asked the question, what do you do with the free time? You make shit better.
Yep. And that goes to another mentality thing with our mindset, right? Which is we assume AI will always know better. They will always be smarter. It will always have a better answer than we do. It's not true. It's better at analyzing data. It's better at getting using all that bulk. They will hold more knowledge than we ever can, right? The amount of data in the background that they can use, but they don't have the capacity to understand the situation, to know what to apply. I guess that's the thing. They have everything on their hands. The AI doesn't know what to use when. You have to tell them what to use when and what is the output you want. So say like a content generation idea, as you said, that is something that is much more subjective than coding, right? Coding works or it doesn't. It creates a land page or it doesn't. It creates a software or it doesn't. And then you can adjust the user friendliness, the design, but the main product is objective. But content generation, writing, that is very subjective. And AI does not have any capacity of it. And we've talked about it in previous episodes already. You know when ChatGPT wrote it, at least the first time, right? If the person doesn't spend much more time iterating, when it's a first time ChatGPT output and you see it, you know it is. Everything from the emojis they use to the way they structure the bullet points to that I forgot how it's called, but the long dash that no one else in the world uses when you do something and then stop the phrase in the middle and do a dash.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
not the short dash, it's not the
Perfect.
long normal dash with a space, it's the longer dash without
Perfect.
spaces on either side. Only ChatGPT has that. I don't know who put it in there, but
But you know what? They're changing it now because they're
they are
trying. Yes, now you still have a longer dash, but it has a little bit of space. They've
interesting.
been changing it. Yes, because
Interesting.
and that's a great point, my friend. Because what you, when you started talking and you said AI doesn't have the capacity to generate content, and I know you didn't want to say that in that way. You kind of all the context you gave later explain exactly what was in your mind at that time. Because I know a lot of people who are watching us right now is like, holy shit, I use ChatGPT to create my content. But no, you use AI to create the first version of your content. That's the point.
Exactly.
And then you iterate and then you
That's what I wanted. Yeah, like AI can generate content specific to what you.
very well actually.
Yeah. So like, but you have to guide them, right? and say you work for, you don't need to work for a company. It could be your own personal content, right? It could be just an influencer on Instagram. If you don't tell them the type of content you want, or what is your sort of branding, right? What do you want to showcase? So if you don't give it all that guidance, that's when it's not able to generate content. That's what I was trying to get to, right? It won't create content. It will not create content tailored specifically to you and to what you want unless you guide them in that direction, right? And because there's no way, like, who the inputs on AI are all the same. I
Are
mean,
too
like,
broad. Are too broad, actually.
yeah. So anyway, that's what I was trying to get into, and that is what we could use on any companies and any sort of employees specifically, like the employee specific knowledge, what they do, what they want from AI to create a quality product is still not a replaceable part, and it's still what will make the difference between a bad AI product and a good AI product. Something that um, if you only use AI to automate your job, maybe you're replaceable because literally you bring nothing else to the table. But that's not AI's fault. It's yours. You don't bring anything else to the table. You might be fine doing the same thing over and over again for 20 years. But if it's not AI, there's something else that will replace you eventually because you're not evolving, you're not bringing extra value, right? Or we're supposed to grow in our careers. So it's the same when you use AI, and all you're able to do with AI is substitute yourself. That's your problem, not AI's, right?
Yes.
You could probably be substituted by a junior employee eventually. So anyway, that's all to say. When you have to think outside the box and think how AI could improve your job and make you probably not replaceable because you can use AI in ways that other can't. And that's not that hard. It's not that I'm not saying something that is like you need to be a genius. No, you just need to do what you do in a daily life. Like, what is it? Think about it without AI. What would you like to do in your job if you have no constraints, right? No time, money, capacity, whatever. Like, I wish, say, I don't know, say you're a content creator, right? And you think, I wish I could design something that would capture people's attention immediately and make them click and not even want to go to the end of the video and click on my product to buy it. Everyone who watches it will click on it. So you're increasing productivity. And now you use AI to increase that productivity. And then you're not substitutable.
Let me get you asked the question, what do I do with my job? Let me turn it to the company, to the business. Like, what do you want your employees to do with their jobs, and
Yes.
and actually bring results to the company in whatever your position is. That's unless you run your own company and you're a one person company, then yes, look at it just from like with a perception
Yeah.
of how do I use AI to increase productivity and all that. But if you are a middle manager, if you're a coordinator, if you're a CEO, you have to look at it. What do I want my team? How do I want my team to use AI? And the one thing, and dude, I've been seeing it, so I can tell by experiences. People fall in love with prototypes when they start using AI. They fall in love with prototypes. When you talk about, hey, shoot, let me try to develop something with Cursor. Oh, I will try to develop an app, I don't know, for my running, or for my soccer club, or for my condo fees, or whatever. You do it and it works, and you create something that you save locally on your computer or on your phone, and it works, and you're like, oh my god, this is incredible. No, that's good, at least to try it out. But you got to look at it as, how do I get our services, solutions, products, whatever we have in our company, what are the pain points in them, and how do I use AI specifically
Yeah.
on them? And it's not that easy, because you have something created, you have something structured, that you have to look at it. You have to understand, how can AI augment it, how can AI improve it,
Yeah.
and your starting point is different. When you start from zero and you create something without any responsibility, and that's the prototype, oh, it works 100%, it's perfect. But when you start to put it in what you already have in your company, then
Yeah.
it's a whole different world. And you really need a strategy behind it to be able to have policies, to be able to have from policies, from security policies, HR policies, whatever you want to do. It's completely different, and that's where you really get that bridge from prototype to solution.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I was talking from the employee's perspective, but it's a good way to shift to the company perspective, because that's no one knows how to use AI 100% yet. And we talked before that about how McKinsey had this analysis where they said companies are in pilot purgatory. So you have,
I love that expression.
it's amazing. You have tons of pilots, and the pilots work great, but you can't scale them. And there are many reasons why you can scale them. Some of them are very clear, and you know how to change. It might be expensive and costly, but it's data infrastructure. So like pilots work with clean data sets, but once you get into the real life and you're scaling up, right, you're getting all kinds of data, messy data, dirty is in not in any other data that is totally disorganized and not clean. You have old systems on companies. Have companies operating on very, very, very rudimentary systems, things from the 90s, and I'm not joking. It looks like the 90s. It feels like the 90s. It works like the 90s. It's glitchy, buggy, and AI can't integrate with that. That's like asking you to drive the Flintstones car instead of the car you have right now. Just how well they did it, so you can do it as well. Use your feet. Um, anyway, but besides that, so those are the things that are uh, easily, quote unquote, fixable, right? Not easily, but you know it's a clear fix. But the strategy, the company strategy, the centralized strategy or unified strategy on how what do you want to do with AI, which is what you mentioned, is very tricky. And it's tricky for two reasons. One, because CEOs, executives, top managers, middle managers, they're all humans like us. They have their their psychological biases and everything, and they might be staunchly anti-AI person that thinks AI is there to ruin everyone or to rule the world, and you have to avoid it. So that's bad for a central strategy. They might also be the biggest AI enthusiasts that thinks that every new AI tool is the biggest thing in the world and will save everything. And then you adopt all of them and you don't have that clear vision. So it goes back to your point of you have to be able to kind of take a step out and look at what is your core problem, your pain point, as you said, right? What is the thing that has, forget AI, what is the biggest challenge your company has all ever faced, let's say, and it's currently facing, right? But your all-time challenge, and go after that. And just one example, because I read about it today or yesterday, and I don't want to bring breaking news, as you said, but I thought it was an interesting article. Delta Airlines announced they're going to use AI to drive ticket prices, to adjust ticket prices. They're going to use AI to optimize their price.
Dynamic pricing.
Literally, dynamic pricing, AI augmented, right? Because they have every company now does dynamic pricing, even if they claim they don't. Most of them do, but we know that it's not as smart dynamic pricing, because say if you want to fly somewhere, if it costs $500 and it used to be 200, you're not flying. You're not just not going unless you have all the money to spare. But then screw dynamic pricing. Most of us, right? And from the company perspective, yes, airlines make a lot of money, but yes, airlines also have a ton of costs. They have very low operating margins. I don't feel like, I don't feel pity. I don't, I don't feel bad for airlines, but I know that they're not like like the tech companies. They're swimming on money. They have a
Low
very
margin, low
margin,
margin.
very low margin, very high competitiveness, very low switching costs for consumers, right? What does it cost you to take an United flight instead of Delta flight? Literally nothing. The only difference is maybe you have more Delta miles, so now you're not building up on that; you're building up on your United miles.
Perfect.
But so they are competing almost exclusively on price. And Delta claimed they could drive their ticket price revenue, not their prices, but their revenue by 20%. They increased by 20% with AI. I doubt it, but I think it's a great way to use AI. Whatever the solution is, AI will find out the best dynamic pricing possible compared to any other sort of thing they had. Their old software, their managers, their analysts that might spend tons of hours analyzing that data to check what is the standard. AI can adjust that on a whim. It can measure it. It can know who is more likely to buy it or not with higher pricing, and you can discuss ethics of that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the company, that is a perfect way to use AI. And whichever the solution is, AI will find it. Maybe the solution is not going to solve Delta's problems, but that's another problem. Then you move to something else then. But in that thing, and that is a problem that has haunted airlines for decades, right? Like, what is the right price that customers will buy and will maximize your revenue, and you won't lose customers or piss them off. So anyway, I thought it was just like a great example for that specific case, which is how to centralize AI strategy.
I love the example because it brings some of my favorite variables when we talk about AI. It brings the use of data and heavy use of data and like in real time in this case. So AI is perfect for that, to be able to get large volumes of data and bring different perspectives. It brings another factor that, again, when we discuss all the productivity gains at the beginning, one thing that has to be clear, uh, whatever AI solution you bring to your business, it's not it could be plug and play at the beginning, but you got to remember, models change, data changes. So you got to monitor and you got to assess and you got to test all the time for outputs when the data is changing. And this Delta example is perfect because of that, because data changes all the time because of different factors. And you got to be monitoring how the reaction of your customer base is to different prices. So the dynamic pricing is the perfect example for this. But even in a smaller company, even if you're watching us and say, I don't have Delta's money, I don't have their data, whatever solution you put, you gotta consider that you will need human factor. You will need the human factor. You will need people. You will need to invest hours monitoring to do monitoring of of your data, monitoring of your output, and assess like model changes and all that. That is not something that is under your control. That is something that you got to monitor and
Yeah.
make sure your output is not impacted by that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And listen, we're talking about AI today. And if someone listens to this episode in a year, everything will probably sound very dumb but outdated.
That's
Um,
us. That's us, actually. I will put that on my LinkedIn profile. Dumb and outdated.
we already dumb and outdated, but it will sound more dumb and outdated. Um, but that's also like, say Delta you implements this AI model for dynamic pricing, and it works beautifully, right? They jump ahead of all the other airlines. Well, now they have two new problems. One, every other airline is gonna copy,
Hell
right?
yeah.
Maybe not
That was
copy,
the first thing that came to my mind when you were talking about it.
right? Like
Yeah.
maybe not straight up copy, but they'll find a way to do that the same or better, because they don't want to just equal data; they want to then overtake it. But secondly, the models are gonna get better. So someone at some point will make that very quickly, make that thing that Delta did outdated. So even if it works perfectly, beautifully to what you want, you have to keep monitoring, as you said. Um, just quick question: how many ChatGPT models ChatGPT has currently.
A bunch, like at least four, like available when you select there, at least 4 or 5.
I
It,
put it up because I couldn't tell you 7.
here we go.
And I doubt that most people even know there are 7, but if they do, they don't know how to use all 7. And I don't. I know there is.
No, no.
I know that's something I need to find out because it's clear, quote unquote. Like they have clear pros and cons, each of them. But like that's just a very basic thing on how like
And let me get that hook. Honestly, I was thinking about it this morning. I'm not lying. Uh, I think I subscribe to the Pro plan or whatever they call it
same.
for ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. Uh, ChatGPT was the first one I subscribed, of course, a year something ago. I was thinking this morning, I've I've been pissed with the outputs from ChatGPT, except the O3 model. I still think the O3 model is good for advanced reasoning, but I've been using more Gemini and Claude the past 5 to 6 weeks. And I was actually thinking about canceling my subscription for ChatGPT unless they bring something new because I just haven't been using it. I've tried and I tried and I'm not being. And again, that's something that changes all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, the tests I did, I've been doing with Cursor. I'm not going to say the models just to not screw the guys over, but one was way better than the other. The results that I had, at least with my technique of prompting, with my way of doing things, and when we talk about businesses, and I think that's a great connection. You will have multiple people. It's not just yourself, and they will have, unless you standardize the most important things for your AI use process, you will have different approaches and different outputs. So it is because
Yeah.
again the model outputs the model they get optimized, they change for better, they change for worse, and you have people trying to use different models to match their approach. So that's why we keep seeing these McKinsey, when they're not
Mhm.
screwing companies over with other things, but you keep seeing these studies where they like 60-70% of companies are not seeing ROI because it is really hard to strategize and to have like a standardized process where what you see as a person, as a individual entity, you will see as a business entity.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And speaking of McKinsey, that's a great way to screw McKinsey back. For instance, maybe not McKinsey, BCG, one of them, the HBO Max story about how they
Oh yeah. They changed the brand from HBO Max to HBO Max. They charge a fortune for each time that
it was
change.
about $200 million total for 3 changes that went like HBO Go to HBO Max to HBO Max or something like that, right? Now, what if you could have an artificially created intelligent tool that could figure out what is the best branding for you? If you told them what are your customers, how can you create a task to figure that out without spending $200 million to have a bunch of human beings that know less about your company than yourself tell you what to change it to?
$20 a month and a day of just getting information and feeding it that information, getting the output.
200 if you want to go big and use the business version. $200 a month.
But my friend, I saw a joke this week and I laughed because it was like somebody tweeted something about McKinsey or whatever. We don't want to focus only on McKinsey,
Yeah.
but and then somebody just tweeted back and said, "It's cute how you think that the large companies hire McKinsey because of that. They hire McKinsey because of other reasons to hide
Yeah.
information in their books and all that crap." Like, oh, okay. But
That's
McKinsey, if you sponsor us, we'll keep talking crap about you. We promise.
like if you sponsor us, damn, the world needs McKinsey, not AI.
But one thing I want to talk about before we get to the academic paper is the people side of it. And I think it's important because, again, when you have, let's play it straight, you used to do something, whatever, in a day, in a week, in 2 weeks, and now you can do it in minutes or hours. You have free time. And we asked the question, what will businesses, what will people do with their free time? But we got to ask it this the same question in a more strategic way. How do you allow people to feel comfortable using AI, uh, augmenting their productivity, but they still have an 8 hour work shift or whatever, 6 hour work shift? How will you guide them to be creative during that time, or learn something different, be better to use AI, or do something different for the company, or bring up new ideas, or create new software? How do you as a company do this transition where you have to start using AI because other companies will, and will produce better, will produce cheaper? How do you do this transition of, even if your motto is, oh, we're going to reduce people, with the people who are staying? And we both don't believe like just reducing people is the answer. I think you can try to bring more business and generate more revenue and generate more value with these hours, with these people. But how do you do this transition where people feel comfortable saying, hey, I did the job that it used to take me a week, I did it in 2 hours. Now I'm going to use AI, or I'm going to use this time to create new ideas, to create uh, to bring value to the company in a different way. And that is something that companies have been struggling with.
Yeah, no, it's tricky, and it is very tricky. The we talked about it, I think, even in our first episode, right? The easy way out, or the easy way for companies will always be to just cut people off and have AI do that instead. But the penalties for that later will be much harsher, in the sense that you lost the people, you lost the trust. If I know you did that once and you're hiring again, I'm not going to trust that you are not going to do it again right next time you're able to. Like, you're only hiring because you messed up. um so yeah, it is a tricky thing, and there's no easy answer, because if there was, every company would be doing already. But, and I mean, end of the day, you're a manager, you're an executive. You're getting paid to figure those things out, which is, how can you use your employees, or how can you use your employees' time and capacity to top what they're doing right now once you put AI in, right? So say you created this strategy, you're a Delta, you want to do dynamic pricing, just to keep on that same example, but it could be anything else. It could be Amazon with all their logistics. They're really good at improving their logistics every single day. And they use AI for that. To me, the way Amazon uses it is like Doctor Strange. They evaluate 7,345,837 scenarios, and they find the one that will drive the best results for them. But they do it every day. You know that Amazon doesn't sit on their laurels and like, I have the best logistics system, no one's gonna catch me. So, but that's why you're an executive, you're a manager. It's how can you make your company even better? What can you do? Can you create a new product? Can you create a new service? Can you just have a quality jump in your delivery, like whether it's a product, a service, whatever it is, without increasing costs, right? So you have the same employees, now you have AI, and you can do a better quality test. Or you're a pharma company and you have more efficient drugs, but without increasing costs. Maybe increase the AI costs, but that's AI costs compared to logistics or compared to R&D for pharma is negligible. So, like, figure out what is it that you want to do with your company. And probably the answer is not keep everything else the same and just reduce costs by cutting employees off, because that's, I don't know, maybe it is for
I,
you, but that's
I,
not.
I think you gave the answer. In the middle of your talk, you gave the answer, R&D. And you can look, and if you expand the acronym R&D, it
Yeah,
matches every kind of company.
that's true. It's not
Because
going to be the way we think of it in a lab sense of the word.
exactly, exactly. So think about improvements to current processes, think about new products, think about new solutions. But again, we want to make it practical here. You gotta create a culture in your company where employees know that they will not be penalized for
Yeah.
trying out new stuff. It's as simple as that, because they already delivered the results, they are
Mhm.
improving the result, they're improving the output, and now they're going to use that time to try to test new stuff, create them, and some of the stuff will not work because again, we already talked. Uh, I know I crapped on prototyping, but prototyping is key in any
It is.
implementation of an AI solution, and not only AI, like in the business world, but how you give time to prototype. You got to create new stuff. And some of these prototypes just go to the garbage, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
It just
And
needs to
then
be smart prototyping, right?
exactly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what you're saying about like allowing your employees, right, to feel comfortable about it, feel confident, have that creativity, that leads me to think that AI will widen the gap between companies, not just regarding AI adoption, right? Whoever adopts faster will jump ahead, which is true. But companies that already have a culture that, and I don't like using the word culture because a lot of times it has a lot of like baggage behind it. But
Perfect.
the true sense of a company culture, right? Whatever you do, the company environment, how it is you're on a day-to-day work there, right? When you work in the company, do you feel in general that you have that people trust you, that managers trust you, or do you feel like you're being scrutinized every day and they're trying to find something to, like something that you did wrong to then like hammer you with that and punish you? And why do I say that? The company environment will make a big difference in AI adoption, because it doesn't matter if the executives say now you have all the freedom to do AI, and as we talked about, right, like we're giving you freedom and we're trusting you with it, and if you fail, it's fine, it's try and error till we get it right. If that has not been the case in your company for 5, 10, 20 years, it doesn't even need to be that long, for the last year, it used to be a very stable, like positive environment company. Last year it's been a shit show, it's been a mess. Organizational restructuring, which is the fancy word, the McKinsey word for layoffs and cutting costs. We're going to restructure the organization by removing 100 people. Um, if that's been your most recent experience, you're not going to trust what executives say now about AI. So that's a long way to say the way companies are run right now before AI will make a difference in how the employees feel comfortable or not to adopt AI. And if you're a company that doesn't have a good culture again right now, or a good environment right now, you're probably already screwed. But try as best as you can to change as best as you can to build trust with your employees so they can adopt your central strategy once you develop it.
You enlightened me, and pun intended. But what you were saying now, and I hadn't had this idea before, because the environment. Yeah, now I will put culture as another word in my blacklist as hype words. I never
Yeah.
looked at it that way, but if before, like again, uh, culture or environment, whatever you will want to call it, will matter a lot, because people will, every company will transition, and people need to feel comfortable, they need to trust management, they need to feel that they can develop something inside. And that's why when people, I think it was the Anthropic guy or whatever who said that 40% of the jobs will be lost or something like that. I don't want to misquote him, but I think he said something crazy like that.
I think so.
I do not believe it, because
Me
if
neither.
before we had the a market, and we're talking about a job as a job market, where people would just switch jobs if they weren't happy with the company culture. Now with AI, what I think will happen is that, and I know people like to talk about the idea of a one person startup, but it became and it will become so much faster for you to build an idea into a company, that if a person is not happy with a company environment, they will leave and they will build their own business in a way that is just like this.
Yeah.
I think we will see a grow in entrepreneurship. I really do, because it just became so easy to create everything that a company needs, like a small business, from marketing to sales to software development to process development. You can build a company in a couple of weeks nowadays, and people will start noticing that. And if they're not happy, and if they don't have the freedom, and if
Yeah.
they don't have the incentives, because that becomes a really important word. If they don't have the incentives to spend their time building something new, they would just do it for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you summed it up. I was gonna say, but I have nothing else to say because it was longer than
Yes,
what.
you do. You have a bunch of stuff to say because we still have the academic paper to talk about.
Oh no, yes, yes, but about the company strategy sense,
Yeah, no,
you
that
you finalized it much better than anything I was gonna say.
I'm the closer, man. I'm not just. I'm not going to use the analogy that I'm the closer of my team, because I hate the closer of my team as a person. But and let's leave it at that. But let's talk about the academic paper, and it's connected, and it would just be a continuation of this discussion. Basically, the paper we got today is called "What Do Professional Software Developers Need to Know to Succeed in the Age of Artificial Intelligence?" From Google, Boston College, and the Education Development Center. Matthew Cam, Cody Miller are the main researchers. And basically, it just extends on what we've been talking for the past 50 minutes. But it talks about, they did a really well structured study to talk about the impact of artificial intelligence in software development. And you are the study geek, so probably you have some stuff in here that you looked about how they structured the study that you liked. And I have just one point that I want to talk about it, that I think we haven't touched on it yet. But what did you think about the study? How was it structured? The results? What is your opinion on it, Professor?
I wish I was able to be that big of a study expert. I'm learning, and I understand. I'm using AI to learn how to design studies. Um, because the way that the field work, strategic management literature, like how do we analyze company strategy, is by looking at archival data. So public data that is there about the company financials, the executives themselves, boards, shareholders, activists, everything related to company strategy. But we use the publicly available data to measure things that are much more fine grained, right? So, say I want to look. One of the things I'm always interested in is how companies switch strategies, how and why, or like when they're switching from, say, developing a product to improving a current product. Let's say but there's no way to there are ways to measure it with publicly available data, but they're not that finely tuned to measure how CEOs work and how managers work, right? So the only way you can get that right now is through online surveys, or if you have access to hundreds of managers to find a pattern. You probably don't have access to hundreds of managers or CEOs. So you go on like Prolific, which is an Amazon. No, it's not Amazon. Amazon has MTurk, but it's an online platform that people fill out surveys for money, and you ask them to pretend they're a manager. That is the closest you can get, and that is very far from
Wow.
reality. So I'm trying to use AI to design studies that can use those people, because it's still the only way we have access to. But how can you create something that will have them better put in the place of a manager, or have them make a decision similar to what a manager would, but without having to ask them to take that step, right? Because if that person is an Amazon warehouse employee, right, that deals with stock inventory every day, and you're asking them to pretend they're a manager of a tech company in Silicon Valley with 5 developers, and you have to decide what is the best path for the company, they're not doing that. It's just impossible, right? It's too far away, and it's not their fault. But that is how studies are done, literally. The other option is if you're in a university and you ask your students to do it and be in the place of their manager, which has some advantages, but also you still have like maybe 30 students, maybe 50, and they're 20 years old, or if they're masters, they're 25-year-olds.
Nothing
So
against them, but different level of experience.
exactly, I'm not nothing against them. Like it's fine, they're doing the right thing for themselves. But so you see, like the challenge of having that closing that gap between what you want to measure and what you're actually measuring is a very hard problem. And speaking of centralized strategy, that is my centralized strategy, AI strategy. How can you close that gap? So anyway, that's all to say. I've been using AI to try to design better studies that can close that gap. I liked what they did in this study. The From my not, how can I say that? From my lack of expertise analysis, I think they did the best they could, but they had a panel of 21 experts. It's still a small sample size. You can't generalize those results with only 21 developers. That said, what they did is amazing. It's very hard, probably, to be able to gather those 21 and go through a 5 month study with 13 Google advisors and 8 um, external advisors. So, what they were able to put together is already amazing. It's just a one data point that it might be true, but you can't generalize it with confidence. So, that's the issue.
Dude, that is so, because I would never have the ability to look what at the study that way. And it's cool because we discuss a lot of academic papers here, so always take it with a grain of salt. Always try to analyze how the study was conducted, because never take it as the complete truth, especially nowadays, because we have hundreds of studies being released every day, every week. It's very important to have this kind of look at how, what was the methodology used, and what would, before you look at the how the result, what results were generated from it. The one point that for me like really caught my attention in this study, and I'm looking at from the tech side, is the de-skilling of developers. And that for me is key, because when you have a technology like AI, like Gen AI, that just allows vibe coding, whatever you want to call it, anyone to go there and to build a program, and you start using it in your company, because with junior people, with low-level developers, because they just develop more, they generate more lines of code. Before we started a conversation, the one thing I showed you is how proud I was that I generated like 6,000 lines of code in a couple of days. For me, who I never developed before, it was awesome. But you cannot get enamored by the gain of productivity without looking at if you are using it. And that's why I still believe AI is better used with more senior developers, because they can just augment the knowledge they have. If you start using it on the people you're hiring to start working and they don't have any experience, I'm not saying, I'm not going to be naive to say you're not going to get results, but you got to understand that those employees, your team, that section of your team will not develop the skills that will allow you as a company to later you like really augment the results of AI. They will always hit the ceiling of, oh, I just know how to generate it with AI. I don't know how to look at the code to find a bug, instead of spending 4 or 5 hours going in a loop. And that's what I've going with some things. I've been, before we started recording, I've been like for 2 hours trying to connect my software to Vercel, to be able to my Prisma database, to be able to publish it on the web, to show it to different people. And that's something that probably an experienced developer would do it in 2 minutes. So the disscaling, the not learning the basic knowledge, especially when we talk about software, is a real danger and is a real risk of companies that are starting to implement AI coding.
Yeah, that's that. You make. I might do the methodology analysis. You do the actual, like, how to translate the paper to the real world analysis, and it's a great way. And I enjoyed. I like what they did and how they approached it on trying to find out how it like how does it affect software developers and what do they need, like how is it going to change their lives pretty much, right? And how's it going to change the company's lives as well, because I mean, you look from the employee perspective and what are the skills they need, what is the how do they augment it, but that affects the companies as well. So again, you're the closer, you're the summarizer. Um,
Yeah, but one point that the study mentions, I think it's cool,
yeah,
is that of the tasks that the engineers use to use the AI in their work, most of them are not coding, and they use the AI to implement tasks that they probably had a hard time doing. That is creating specifications, creating documentation, during the planning process, how to analyze what features they were going to put in a product. And that AI can really help a lot if you learn how to have a conversation with it and like gather that knowledge and structure that knowledge. So it's important that when we talk about software engineers, we're not only talking about coding, we're talking about the whole picture. And this study was able to really picture that in a nice way, that these software engineers, they're using it for different tasks, not only coding.
yeah. And one thing I was thinking about is, and it's a little out of the paper side, but if you're a senior software developer, you have a lot more knowledge that you can use um, to implement AI, right? You can use AI on many more things because of your additional knowledge. But it's kind of like hand in hand with the skilling threat, the skill erosion. I You could get comfortable and suffer that skill erosion, but I think you could also see junior software developers that might lack a lot of the traditional software developer skills, and that's not my area, but what I imagine, if they can speed up the process with AI and become AI experts, or like they can get expertise in how to implement AI for software developing, even though they're juniors, they can move way faster, and you can kind of like flip the scales and the hierarchy and etc. Because you have a junior developer, he or she's a raw developer, I know, still lacking some expertise, experience, capabilities as a traditional software developer, but they're able to do wonderful things with AI for what they're able to do, right? Then you have a talent in your hand that might quickly surpass your senior developer that, I don't know, has a ton of expertise, but is just one person without AI.
That is amazing. You connected with like what we talked at the beginning. That really is this analysis of how do you allow people to use their time to be able to bring the
Yeah,
results from themselves and for the company. Man, that is perfect. That is perfect. Don't forget about our free AI blueprint. It's important.
always.
So we have the link in the episode description. If you're seeing us on TikTok or whatever, YouTube Shorts or Instagram, just go to a full episode on Spotify or on YouTube or whatever you use. The link will be there. And our concept here is to understand your pain points. Try to help you with this assessment. And again, it's 10 to 15 minutes. Take your time, make a coffee, use the sugar-free syrup that Enrique showed me before we started recording that I have to buy now. But it's basically a methodology we created, an assessment we created to be able to gather the right information to give you a blueprint to be able to start to put AI in. And our goal is not only for you to have the blueprint, but be able to have your contact to follow you, to guide you, to monitor the process. We really want to create a community. We really want to create a study on the Hiki side something that hasn't been done in the market. And in our side, we want to be able to learn your specific needs and try to help you implement AI in a better way. So do not forget about our free AI blueprint. Take 10 to 15 minutes, and we hope you can see the positive results that a lot of companies are seeing already.
Exactly. And yeah, just sum it up. You'll get the results of this study as well. Whatever findings we have, how your company did, how the overall pool of companies are doing, how is AI helping companies, or the pain points in AI implementation, how are your employees reacting to AI, everything we can find on AI adoption, AI results, ROI.
Very good.
So
Very
yeah, hope you choose to take the blueprint or take the survey, the questionnaire, and get our blueprint and get results. We do want
that
results
we
for
do
you as well,
want
not for us.
we want results for everyone. And before we close this episode, just want to say that when we publish it, our friend Hiki will be flying to Denmark to present his paper, and we are freaking proud of him for that. So, dude, conquer the world. We need a new world president, and you're the guy for it. So, have the nicest trip and have a good conference there. What's the name of the conference again?
Thank you so much. It's Academy of Management Conference. And yeah, I'm excited. It's every year. Usually, it's always been in America. Usually in the US, every once in a while in Canada. That's been it for 90 years now.
Wow.
Almost. Yeah, it's like the 85th Academy of Conference or something like that. 85th, yes. And this is the first year they're doing in Europe. It's in Denmark, so very cool. We're very excited. And then I was able to I got my paper accepted there for presentation. Yeah, so I'll be flying there as you watch this episode for my presentation and for the conference in general. A lot of AI topics, by the way, the implications of AI in management and strategy in general, how companies adopt AI, how researchers use AI, everything AI. So maybe I'll get other ideas for us here and talk about it when I come back.
That is awesome. And an inside joke that no one will understand. I just realized that Denmark is the perfect country for our friend Nata, because everyone's name ends in son. So we have to take Nata to Denmark. I just had that realization, and nobody will understand this, and it better stay that way.
Absolutely.
Guys, have a great week. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll be back next week. See you guys later.
Yeah.